Welcome to day 19 of the daily vlog for the month of April. Today's topic is going to be about how to start a writer's group. You might want to start a writer's group if there are no writer groups in your area. That was why I did it. The only writers group available in my area were already published, and I simply wanted other writers to kind of commune and communicate with and have things in common. So I started my own writers group. So I'll go a little bit about like some things to bear in mind if you start, and then I'll talk a little bit about how I did it myself. You first should start with an objective, specific objective or objectives or mission statement. If you're going to start a writers group, you got to ask why. Ask yourself what will be the purpose of it. Will it be a social group? Will it be something for feedback, or would you want a group where you do workshops and you actually try to improve your writing or get to publishing, or just sharing your work and having conversation over coffee. My particular group is a little bit of everything. We have workshops, we've gone out to dinner together, we meet like every other week where we get together for coffee and snacks and talk about certain specific subjects, but then the conversation tends to cover a lot of different subjects, especially if somebody brought in a question. You need to decide on a venue. This is your location. Some groups might choose a library or a coffee house, or even a bookstore might offer a room that you can use. And you do this where it needs to be quiet enough so that if there's a time where you're like reading each other's work or reading it out loud, that it's not too noisy and not too upsetting. And you need it quiet enough for a little bit of reflection. I actually have it at my house, but you might want to look at a church, or even online is an option. If you go through Google Plus Hangouts, you can have up to 10 people where you're all communicating through webcams and stuff. And there's other sites too that you can find where there's message boards and things like that. You also need to decide on dates and times. Groups seem to do so much better if there's regular dates. I actually run two groups. One is a pagan group and one is a writers group. And the writers group meets pretty regularly every other Saturday at 2 to 5. That way people can plan things ahead and they can know if they're going to make the meetup or not. The topic isn't scheduled until, like, what I've been trying to do is do like a month in advance if I can. But dates and times should be convenient with the members that you get, and I think there should also be a certain flexibility. So if somebody's going to be late, or if they need to come early, or if you need to have maybe an extra meeting, you might want to consider that. Probably most importantly is to find the members. I actually use www.meetup.com. The thing is, as organizer, it's like $20 a month. So as an organizer, you have to pay, but as a member, it's free. There's other sites kind of similar, like you can go through Yahoo Groups. I think MSN might even have some sort of group, sort of site. Or you could just have something where it's through email. You also need to understand group dynamics. Not everybody is a good teacher or a good leader. And you have to be able to listen to your members, but also make the necessary decisions. Probably the biggest thing you might have to encounter are conflicts, gossip, or some sort of issue with members. And I'm not afraid of removing members. It's like, I feel if you join my group, we don't have drama. There's no purpose for it. There's no purpose for the gossip. If you're not happy with the group, by all means, move on. And if I have conflicts, I generally remove the offending member, but I will try to mediate and try to work things out first. Now, conflicts can be handled through the mediation. You want to keep the parties focused on being solution oriented. You want to keep them away from accusing one another. They need to focus on what they're feeling and why they're feeling it. And if you want to also stay away from gossip, insults. If they're getting to the point of insults, you need to have a timeout. And if you cannot find a solution, then remove the offending party or parties. Sometimes, it takes two people to fight. So you have to, it's your call. And sometimes you get people upset with you. So Also understand you're not failing as a leader when members outgrow you. In fact, you should see it with a certain level of personal pride that you've helped people along the way to get to where they need to go, where they feel like, I feel like, I'm getting to be a published author and I don't really need the group anymore. That's perfectly fine, because you'll have this ebb and flow of members coming and members going, and that's perfectly normal. And the people who end up being your friends will always be your friends. I have members that I will, they haven't come to the groups in ages and ages, but I still consider them friends, and therefore we still communicate through Facebook and stuff. And finally, I think it's important that as an organizer or leader, that you recognize that you're going to go through times where you're going to feel overwhelmed or even burned out. I have from time to time. I deal with depression, which I have mentioned in other blogs. So every now and then I'll just say, hey, you know what? For this particular month, we're not having meetings for whatever reason. And I find the members are very understanding of it. Or sometimes I'll even ask one of the members, maybe you would like to take this meeting or that meeting, and just delegate. But I'm not above just say, hey, look, we're just not having meetings this month, and just give myself a small vacation. I would strongly recommend that if you do that, make sure you have like a cutoff date and let them know, I'm not quitting, I just need a break, because that way sometimes members feel abandoned and they end up leaving thinking, well, she's just given up, when that's not true. Sometimes you just need a break. Now, you might find that you need a very long break. Sometimes you might even come to the point where you're like, I'm kind of done with the group. And if it's getting to the point where you're stressing out, you're not enjoying yourself, maybe it is the time to shut it down. And if that is true, you might want to give the remaining members, an option for somebody else to take the lead role. That way they can still have the group and you don't have the responsibility anymore. So there's that. Now I started my meetup years ago. It was probably 2-3 years ago. And I didn't get too many members at first. I only had like 3 or 4, I actually had like, I think 10 or 15 members, which I was thinking, oh, this is awesome. But then only 2 or 3 people were showing up. There was a lot of people, and I don't know if it was even this area, but there was a lot of people that they just, like it would take them forever. They'd be late. It wasn't, I was getting frustrated with it, but I stuck it out. And even if one person showed up, we'd still have the meeting. And a lot of times I'd have meetings that were just joining together to talk writing. And then other times it's like, okay, well, this meeting where we're going to talk about characters or plot or what we know about publishing. And I kept trying to tell people, look, I'm an amateur. I'm not published. I mean, I am now through self-publishing, but at the time I wasn't published. And I did find that through the time that I've started from now, I've had members want the group to go in a certain direction. But as organizer, I had to kind of weigh where I had to think, well, what am I going to get out of it? Because I had one member where he wanted it more work. He wanted like handouts and feedback, and I was like, I get a lot out of just the social interaction where other writers will bring things. Like we've had writers come and bring information about conventions that they're going to, where you get to talk to agents. Some of these sci-fi conventions and stuff, if you're a sci-fi writer, that's a good place to go because they'll actually have writers show up there, or agents or something. And then there's like there would be book events, sometimes author signing somewhere, and it basically having a group of other writers, you're able to network, which I was getting so much from that. Plus, there would be times where I put a lot of work into a meeting and then people didn't seem to really appreciate it. So then I started pulling back a little bit, where it's like, well, I'm not going to put a lot of effort into it. I mean, I'm a homeschooling mom and, I work part-time and, I have things outside of the group. So, and there's times I would burn out and I'd have to take time off. Probably another little thing I probably should mention here too is about fees. If you have a venue that costs money, or like in my case, I use meetup.com and it costs me money to have this service, I transfer that kind of responsibility to the members. Now again, I split how many members that I have and split that into membership dues, and then of course it's not perfect. It does cover some costs, and then I carry the rest. But other costs other than the site are refreshments and handouts. Um, so I guess as organizer, you should consider if you need to do that. You could even have options of like having, say, a jar and say, hey, look, if anybody wants to donate money to help with anything, that's fine. Or you can have it where members take turns to bring in, say, the snack and refreshments. Um, I guess that's really all I wanted to cover on the writers group. If you have any questions or comments or even ideas you'd like to see in the video, um, please post in comments, and don't forget to like, let other people know, and I guess that's all. Thanks for watching.